The magic hand.
There have been tales of its greatness,
Tales of its terror.
though I can guarantee anything that powerful, that dangerous, is worth the fight.
And it seems we are not alone.
Hello folks, and welcome to Dice Chatter. We are back with another Frostgrave battle report. Today we have another lovely game featuring our wonderful witch, Karen Crone.
Shut your pie hole, you beef-witted barnacle.
Well, thank you, Karen. But we can't forget about her opponent, as an old face is back for a bit of revenge, Durgarith the Demon. Though I am sure you are excited, like these two wizards, to get right into the fight. So let's cover some of the pregame info and dive right into this battle report. I'm sure by now you all are very familiar with our witch Karen Crone and her nephew Llyod. Her witch spells and capabilities have proven she is a worthy adversary and is always on the hunt for coin and power. Her warband consists of a man-at-arms, an infantryman who has a nice upgraded weapon, a crossbowman, a giant green frog, and of course a couple thieves and thugs to grab all the loose change. Opposite of Karen is Durgarith the Demon and his apprentice, Terry. At the end of Season 2, these summoners took a chance in the barren wastes of this fallen empire, and they are back again for a bit of ninth layer of hell type play. With a deadly and agile warband featuring a Templar, barbarian, and a slew of quick thieves, Karen may have her work cut out for her.
You watch your mouth, you overgrown oaf.
Anywho, the whole reason I created this hand terrain centerpiece was for this scenario. And it'll be a fun one. We opened up to page 157 in the main Frostgrave book and find the right hand and the left hand. This scenario is brutal. At the end of each turn, this hand statue will send a bolt of energy towards the two closest models on the table. There's a chance one of these beams of energy will help the fighter, healing him or her a number of hit points, or the complete opposite, blasting in some damage, potentially eviscerating the combatant. I'm excited to see what happens in this game, and while you watch this battle report, I have a request. Please, let me know what you think about the visuals of the report and how the game itself is presented. I am always open to try out new things, if I deem it feasible to implement in the video, of course. Either way, I hope you all enjoy the game, and without further ado, let the battle begin. Before the turn starts, both Durgarith and Karen have some spells to cast. For Durgarith and Terry, both will attempt the familiar spell to get a small boost in health. The wizard was able to roll above the 12 he needed, and Terry was unsuccessful. This little demonic treasure goblin will help protect the summoner for the duration of this battle. For Karen, both her and Llyod will attempt to create a potion of healing, assuming they will need it this battle. Karen was unsuccessful with the casting, but once again, Llyod was able to create the potion and will give the red elixir to his master. So begins turn number 1. Karen and her crew get to go first, and the thief next to her will run forward, getting in contact with the treasure out in the open. Unfortunately, he doesn't have another action to snag the chest of mysteries. Karen, the man-at-arms next to her, and of course the other thief will head up the table as well, staying near each other. Of course, Karen at least has to try casting a spell. Far down the table, she has eyes on the summoner's apprentice and will cast a curse on the spell wielder. The incantation isn't difficult for the witch to cast, and her foe is now in a difficult spot. Though, Durgarith now has a chance to show some of his might. All the fighters around the wizard will move up the table. The thief will go towards the treasure. The archer will find a place to perch up atop these crystals, and the Templar will get into position as well. Though the Templar won't be sitting still for long, as Durgarith will use his second action to cast the leap spell on the fighter. Easily enough, the hardy fighter will be flung forward up atop the wooden bridge, getting closer to the magic hand. This turns things over to the apprentice phase, where Llyod and his nearby pals will do some similar moves to Karen and the other fighters. The thug will go forward towards the treasure, while the apprentice Giant Frog, and Infantryman will stay close. Also, Llyod will attempt to protect his allies from some arrows and magical blasts, casting the Fog spell. A 19 on the die is more than enough, and a little bit of range protection is perfect for his squad to at least pick up a treasure or two. Terry and the few fighters nearby will now have their go. Terry, who is cursed, will attempt to possess the barbarian over on his right. The die is rolled, and that is quite the failure, and the apprentice will take a couple points of damage. This will lead to a bunch of movements from the rest of the fighters. The thief will make his way to the chest of gold, while the barbarian and the treasure hunter will start making their way towards the center of the table. An unfortunate roll for the apprentice, though the round is still not over. For the soldier phase, Karen's crossbowmen and thug will begin to head forward as well, making their way to their witch and other companions. Getting more activation options at the start of turn 2 could be a great boon for the witch. While on the other side of the table, the extra 2 thieves for Durgarith will trudge on forward, getting close to the mighty and terrifying hand. This will then end Battle Round 1. A number of extra items at the end of this round. For all the basic spells, the Fog will stay put this round to the benefit of Karen and her crew, as well as the curse on Terry, who was unable to break the incantation. Of course, we cannot forget about the magic hand. 2 of Durgarith's fighters are closest to the hand, the Templar and the thief pointing out the horror before him. A bolt of energy flies towards the Templar and he feels rejuvenated, but the thief will suffer a +5 elemental blast. And fortunate for him, a little luck was on his side, rolling a natural 20, dodging the spark of energy. An eventful round 1. We still have 4 treasures that are about to be snagged, and of course some more spells that need to be slung. Durgarith manages to outroll Karen this time around and will begin turn number 2. The summoner has options galore starting off the round. He will decide to move up the table just a bit and realize that Fog spell is a real annoyance. Casting the Imp spell to the side of the mist may flip some annoyance over to the opposing apprentice. With a strong die roll, the spell is successful and the turn is still not over for Durgarith. A thief will pick up a treasure and begin making her way off the table, retreating back to where they entered the battlefield. The archer is last to activate in the wizard phase and has very few targets that are not hindered by terrain, though he will attempt to fire an arrow at the one-armed thief, who is yet to pick up the treasure. The arrow flies forward, flexing in the air, flying by the target harmlessly. Karen now has a chance to act. The thief right in front of her will pick up the treasure and begin making his way off the board. This will now give Karen a bit of breathing room to scoot forward, getting to the very edge of the wall. She sees an opportunity to cast Grenade near all the fighters across the way. The spell is successful, and there are 2 total targets that are impacted by the concussive blast. The thief ends up taking a huge 8 damage, really hindering the next couple actions. And for Terry the Apprentice, he takes 7. This brings him down to a dangerously low health total, and Karen isn't done yet. Her crossbowman has eyes on the damaged apprentice and will fire a bolt in that direction. The curse isn't helping the apprentice's odds, but he does manage to step to the side and dodges the quarrel. One more fighter will also move for Karen, which will be the thug, who will also head up and move towards his employer. The apprentice phase will begin, and Terry is in a world of hurt, but he needs to help out his crew. His best idea is to get the raging barbarian into the mix. Both him and the man with the great axe will move over, getting to the wall's edge. Terry will then cast Leap on the fighter. The d20 is rolled, and the barbarian is flung across the chasm, all the way to Karen's side of the board. If you folks wanted some combat, well, you're gonna get it. To finish off the rest of the apprentice phase, the thief will pick up the treasure and start heading towards the table's edge, while the treasure hunter will start, well, hunting down that central treasure. He manages to get up to the hand with his speed, and the chest of coin will spawn next to the fighter. But of course, we can't forget about Llyod. This marvelous apprentice will scoot over to the side and get a visual on the treasure hunter, who is yet to snag the chest of riches. He will cast a curse on the speedy fighter. As per usual, the apprentice does exactly what he needs to do. He'll empower the spell, as the fighter now has a -2 disadvantage to all rolls. This will lead to a few other movements. The frog will stay near the apprentice, while the thug behind the fog will scoop up the treasure chest and start running away. The infantryman has a different plan and will run towards the demonic imp and pierce into the creature with his magical spear. Karen's fighter has quite the advantage and quite the attack, dealing out more than enough damage to take down the annoying demon. We will then end the round with the soldier phase for both warbands. For Durgarith, the rest of his leftover fighters will scoot forward, getting near the hand and the central treasure. Some will use their strength to climb the octagonal stones, further surrounding the magical icon. This does not leave much room for Karen and her crew to snag the central treasure. The man-at-arms will climb up the crystal and park right at the end of this wooden bridge, not progressing towards the central treasure, while the thief will stay put, awaiting further orders. This will then end Battle Round 2. Once again, numerous items need to be handled at the end of the round. The hand will be first. It will target the treasure hunter in base contact as well as the nearby Templar. The healing beam is kind and blesses the hunter, but the magical blast will fire at the man clad in armor. Unfortunately, for my own excitement, the die rolled quite low here and nothing of interest happens. For the fog spell, it will stay put, at least for another battle round, and both Terry and the treasure hunter cannot shake off the curse that has been put upon them. It seems Karen and her fighters have the upper hand on Durgarith, but he has a strong hold over the central treasure. This is the turn where Karen needs to decide what to do, and if they will be sticking around for more bloodshed. But Durgarith will get to go first, once again. To start turn number 3, we will begin with a couple of movements, as 2 thieves are nearby their wizard. The orange fighter will move around these wooden platforms, getting a better view of the other side of the battlefield, while the other will continue making its way off the table. Durgarith is low on options, but will decide to continue pestering Karen and her crew. He will get in a better spot and attempt to cast the imp spell once again. He needs a 10 for a successful casting and fails it with a 5, taking a point of damage in the process. Karen now gets to act and wants to eliminate this barbarian at all costs. She will retreat a bit and cast a curse on the raging foe. There, of course, was no doubt the spell would be successful, and this barbarian looks to be in a tough spot. The thug will move and get into combat with the fighter and stab into the foe. A +4 to the enemy's +2, and both fighters tie. This means both hits land, dealing a bit of damage to each fighter. The crossbowman will attempt to stab the barbarian as well, and it doesn't go too good for him. Even with the curse, the barb manages 6 damage into the long-ranged fighter. The apprentice phase will then begin with Terry, who is all alone this battle round. With his low hit points, he doesn't really know what to cast, but will try to spawn an imp into play unlike his master. Though he rolls a 4 and ends up taking a couple points of damage. Things are looking very bleak for the apprentice. This turns things over to Llyod, and he has a chance to destroy his counterpart. If you can see way down the table, just the smallest glimpse of Terry, Llyod will attempt to steal health from the demon. A casting roll against the cursed will save, and just like that, the life essence is sucked from Terry. Llyod drinks in that blood magic and feels good removing a major player from the battlefield. The giant frog now has a chance to move forward, and he has just enough movement to get up and personal with the enemy thief, saving combat for a later round. The soldier phase begins with Durgarith's Warband, and we will do a bunch of movements first. Treasures will continue their way towards the table's edge and be picked up by the hunter as well. A thief moves towards the hand, and the Templar will move up to the man-at-arms blockade, getting ready to swing that massive weapon. The archer will then take his turn and fire an arrow at Karen, who is slightly behind some intervening terrain. The arrow, though, will pass by the witch harmlessly. The final action for Durgarith's squad will go to the barbarian, who sees that damaged crossbowman in front of him and hopes to cleave him in 2. But a little bit of the opposite happens, as the red fighter takes 5 points of damage.
All right, men, let's move out. We have ourselves enough treasure and riches to go through, and I'm in a good mood. Let's not risk any more senseless death.
Karen and the rest of her leftover fighters leave the table with 2 chests of gold in hand. The last few fighters in combat were resolved, and only one crossbowman was defeated in the process, but he has enough strength left to be ready in the next battle. Durgarith and his warband captured most of the treasures, but they lost a very important spellcaster. I guess for a demon, he can always steal a few more souls from the depths of hell. Karen did manage to level up some of her abilities, boosting her hit points, as well as making the curse spell that much easier to cast. For the treasure, the warband gathered up 60 gold crowns and managed to find a grimoire, the spell Invisibility. Karen will also decide to spend a lot of this money she has acquired over these number of games to gain an apothecary in her warband. This potion-holding man will replace one of the thugs, who I'm sure will find employment elsewhere. I will say, I am slightly disappointed the magic hand didn't obliterate any fighters on the table. Of course, I could have extended the battle a couple more rounds, but with Terry dead and all the treasures and positions to be quickly moved off the table, I didn't really see any reason to continue the game. Nonetheless, I did have fun seeing what these 2 wizards and their warbands got up to. As always, I want to thank my patrons for helping fund videos like this and pushing me to step forward and take some risks as a creator. Until next time, folks, I want to thank you all for watching, and of course, happy gaming.